Hi, it's John Louder with PTAA, and I am joined by Susan Passmore, who is with Blue Ridge Companies, and I will let her introduce herself.
Well, my name is Susan Passmore. I'm an Executive Vice President for Blue Ridge Companies, and I've been with Blue Ridge for almost 20 years. We are a High Point-based real estate developer. I have come up through the ranks. I started as a leasing consultant almost 27 years ago, and also am Region 4 Vice President for NAA representing North Carolina.
And for those folks who don't know, if you're a member of PTAA, you're automatically a member of the Apartment Association of North Carolina and the National Apartment Association. There are roughly, for just to put it in perspective, in the National Apartment Association network, there are roughly 170, I think it's a little down from that, but 170 affiliated associations. And that they comprise about 10 million, over 10 million units, apartment units in membership. So, and Susan, being a regional vice president means you're on the board of directors for
That is correct,
the National
yes.
Apartment Association, and you're also on the board for the Apartment Association of North Carolina.
Yes.
And you are a past president of PTAA.
Yes.
And I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but I think that's plenty.
Plenty.
So, okay. So what we're talking about today is, the benefit of membership, and we're talking specifically about PTAA, but we could also be talking about really any trade association, but and any of the apartment associations affiliated with NAA. So could you talk a little bit about the value that you guys see for your company in being a member of PTAA and the other associations?
Okay, sure. So as a member of the Piedmont Triad Apartment Association and the associations across our portfolio, the main value that we find is in education. I would say that's probably number one for us, is very high quality education, professional association for our folks to network and find mentors and get educational opportunities to stay up to date with what's going on in the industry. If you ask, that's it from our company standpoint. Our folks love the education. If you ask me, it's about advocacy. I love the opportunity to get at the table, have conversations with legislators, and impact change for our industry. And I like instilling that in other people. So we do have that passion throughout our company as well. And then not least importantly is networking and making lifelong connections with our vendor partners and other association members. You never will want for any unfulfilled resource. If you are a member of the apartment association, you can always find a resource through a vendor or a peer.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the core values that we see, from our perspective too, on the staff, is that networking. And you can really see you really do see a benefit for all the folks who are involved and networked. So how about for, you mentioned education and training. One of the things I run into sometimes, people will say, well, I don't like sending my folks to classes because I don't want my competitors to steal them. How do you guys look at that?
I think it's a cliche, and I can't remember the exact quote, but I'd rather have, educated, trained people that other people want to steal than to have folks working for me that aren't educated and trained. So that's how we look at it. And we have a great culture here at Blue Ridge, and so as do most members of the apartment association. So if somebody's leaving us, I would rather they go work for somebody else at the apartment association, a peer company, if there's an opportunity out there for them. So rather have them trained and educated than not.
Well, and I think, something else that we talk about is that there's training and there's education, and you guys actually do a fair share in-house, and many of our members do, but there's a certain benefit to being exposed to ideas from some of your peer companies as well.
That is correct. There's so much, we do a lot of training in-house, but I find when our folks get out and they get to network with other folks, they're exposed to experiences that other companies are going through. And sometimes that's an aha moment that they're learning. And sometimes it's a moment of, and especially this year during the COVID, it's a moment of, hey, I'm not going through this by myself. We don't have to figure this out in vacuums individually. We can network and collaborate for solutions.
Right. And I will say that, and I do think that PTAA is our members are unique in the sense that I've seen a level of collaboration that I've worked with other organizations and I've not seen this level of collaboration. And that, I think that speaks to the membership. I think it speaks to the folks who are involved. You don't necessarily see that all the time. And I think, if I have a selling point that I'm trying to get across to folks who may not be members yet, that's one of them, is that it's, yes, it's a competitive environment, but there's a great deal of, especially in times like we're living through right now, there's a great deal of collaboration and, all hands on deck and people trying to help each other out to do what's best for everybody.
Totally agree. I can tell you that there have been some peers I felt that I wore out my welcome on asking for advice and input, but not any PTAA members. I mean, they are always to the rescue. You can pose any question and folks will jump in to help you. So you're exactly right. It is not competitive. It's not, I don't know what words to use. It's not backstabbing or underhanded. It is really a family of apartment owner operators and suppliers.
Yeah, I agree totally. So how about if you were talking to especially some of your newer team members and they were, everybody's busy and they don't have a lot of time on their hands. If you were to tell them what the value is of being involved, and I'm not talking about just networking, I'm talking about maybe working on a committee or volunteering, going to the legislature, what is the benefit for them personally?
Well, I was looking back at some emails earlier today because I thought, how long have I been doing this? And I found an email in almost 20 years ago.
Wow.
It was between me and PTAA. And I think I said something like, oh, I'm between projects right now and I might have a little downtime. Maybe I want to volunteer for a committee. I don't know why in the world I ever thought I had a downtime, but that's how I got started. Uh-huh. So, everybody is not passionate about everything. And there's the old adage, like, get in where you fit in. And you have that opportunity in the apartment industry and specifically at PTAA. If you're passionate about education, you can learn, but you can also make a difference for other people by sharing your knowledge. If you're passionate about legislative advocacy and making a difference with the regulations and policies and laws that we all have to live by every day, get involved there. So there's something for everybody.
Yeah, totally agree. Now for our supplier members, one of the, I say it all the time, and I'm sure people are sick of hearing me say it, but their membership is really just the ante. If this were a poker game, it's kind of their ante to get into the game. They still have to play the hand. And have you found that the supplier partners who get involved in ways beyond just the not unimportant things? I mean, it's very important that they participate in the trade show and that they sponsor a lunch or something like that. I mean, those are great. But can you talk a little bit about the experience of them being shoulder to shoulder with you at the legislature or helping teach a class or provide other resources?
Yes. So I think it's about a fit of values. And you're right. Anybody can sponsor an event or go to a trade show. But when you match yourself with supplier partners that have the same core values as yourself, your personal values, you care about helping other people, finding solutions, being successful as a group, then those are the people that you're going to have lifelong relationships with. I mean, Dale Holder is so passionate about, advocating for our industry. Denise Manello is passionate about helping other people, and she has a side business of providing meals to the homeless folks at the YWCA, and there's a group of us that help her do that, and that's her heart. And Dale's heart is advocating, and Matt Ketterman's heart is helping people. He's passionate about the food drive. So it's all about what's in people's heart, and that's the folks that you are drawn to partner with naturally, and you can make those connections at PTAA.
Yeah, and it is great to see. It is, And, I've been here for 11 years now, and I've seen those relationships just get deeper and deeper. I've had a couple people say, hey, when suppliers show up at our door, first thing we ask them is, are you a member of PTAA? And they get referred over here, and our offices are not far apart. And I can tell you that we have had more than one supplier show up directly from your offices that have come over because somebody there has said, you really should check out PTAA. They drive right over, which we do appreciate.
Yeah, I have a roofer right now that we're using, and I'm like, okay, people, if I check the database, you better be in there.
Well, we're happy to welcome them. And because of your experience with the state association and the national association, that's a bigger ask. We're here local, and so what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about the value that you see in getting involved because that is more of a commitment. You do have to travel. With the state association, pretty much is going to Raleigh. With the National Association, there are meetings all over, and it can take a time commitment and a resource commitment. So what do you see as the value for companies getting involved at the national level and the state level, and for individuals to get involved?
I think from a company standpoint, it kind of goes back to the educating your associates. The more you expose your folks to the advocacy conferences or the education conferences, serving on a committee, the more you expose them, the more they stay on top of what's happening in the industry. They're ahead of the curve. I can't tell you how many times something has come up in a committee at NAA where, my VP of operations or our vice president of facilities has come back and said, oh my gosh, did you know X, Y, and Z is happening? And we're like, no, but now we're ahead of the curve. So staying ahead of the curve, knowing what's going on in the industry, making connections. And I said, I'm an introvert, so that's very hard for me to show up in a room when it just says reception. That's like panic for me.
Right.
So you get out of it what you put into it. And the first committee I ever served on at NAA, I remember Scott Wilkerson, I asked him if he would appoint me to a committee, and he did. And it was membership. And I went to a few meetings, and I came back and I told Scott, I said, man, I don't know what's going on. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like, I feel like all the work is done without me, and I don't know what this committee is doing. And he really quizzed me on, are you listening? Are you intently listening? Are you sure you're informed about what the committee's doing? And so it really made me be like, oh, maybe I'm not. Like, I got to take a deeper dive here. So you get into it, you get out of it what you put into it. And the exposure, the education, really having an impact on the direction of the industry, whether it is legislative or education. We have folks that are on the NAA curriculum committees, and they are literally helping to write the education materials that we use every day to train our folks. So you get out of it what you put into it, and it is a wonderful opportunity. For me personally, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for PTAA is where I started. Then I got involved with AANC, and then I got involved with NAA. So I wouldn't be where I am professionally if it wasn't for PTAA. That's just the honest truth.
Well, and I think that because you put a lot into it, that is a critical part. And we appreciate it greatly. And I will say that I think most of us in our younger years don't feel like we can make a difference, and we're very busy. Most of us have personal lives that keep us busy, and work is we don't have let's just say, as we get more senior, we get a little more flexibility at work. So it can be a real commitment. And I think one of the things that you guys do at Blue Ridge that I think is fantastic is you actually allow your younger folks to get involved in that way, and you support them, and you actually push them. you're not the only companies, but it's a rare few that do that. And I think that you see the value from it. Years ago, and and we can always edit this out if I'm totally wrong on this, but I think you guys ran some numbers one time. Didn't you tell me one time that you guys had actually evaluated you'd kind of put a metric on involvement, and you'd found that it was, that there was actually a very positive correlation with involvement with the associations and the performance. I don't remember if it was of your team members or of the company in general. I can't remember, but
I want to say that was related. We require all of our associates to get their NAA designation within 2 years of working here. Many come to us with it, but we do require it. And I think we put some numbers to that, and it showed that the folks that had gotten the NAA designation made several thousand more dollars a year on average than the folks who didn't. And their properties performed better as well. I forget the exact metrics, but yeah, there was better property performance as well.
Yeah, and that's obviously that's our metric, is if our members are getting the value out of it, that they can literally quantify, the success that they're having from the education that they're doing, the training. We consider it a success if we're able to provide that level of service or those products that do it, that allow for that. Anything else I've forgotten that?
Well, you're talking about success. So I will tell you that Blue Ridge will be 20 years old in April. And we have paid for our PTAA, AANC, and NAA dues over and over again, just with single legislative acts or various educational materials. And I want to give you a shout out because you have been invaluable this year. The work that you have done to get our leadership team together several times a week for the COVID calls that we've been having. That has been invaluable. I can't put a dollar amount on that. And not only just the collaboration from the calls, but the follow-up from the calls and the materials that you've put together. And that's just been invaluable to us this year. So kudos to you, John. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Susan. Appreciate you saying that. Well, like I said, I say it on every call. I mean, it doesn't work without you guys, and you guys have been amazing. The contributions you've all made.